All right, how about conversations and collard greens? So I'm going to talk to y'all.
Collard greens, yuck and yuck.
The woman of God said collard greens, yuck and yuck. Collard greens happens to be one of my favorite things. Collard greens happens to be not so favorite things, but that's what is on the menu for me. Well, I'm going to talk to you while I am doing it, or cutting it, I should say. Anyways, I was asked a question a little over a week ago. If you did not know, I started a group called Divorced But Not Damaged. And so I was asked on social media when I was doing a live about it, I was actually asked whether, how do you know when you're ready to pursue, I guess, a new relationship after divorce? And that was a pretty loaded question. And so I said I would come back and do live, but I think I'll just do this here. So for me, I allowed God to take me through a process. And I think it's a process I just kind of created for myself. And so this was what my process looked like. First of all, when I divorced from my former husband, and now there were 2 separations involved. So we tried and it still did not work. And then we ultimately ended up divorced. And so what I did was I ended up realizing that just because I was divorced, it doesn't mean I was done. I was still emotionally attached to him. So I knew I did not want to start dating anyone or considering anything else as long as I was emotionally attached to him. So I allowed God to take me through the process of detaching my emotions from this person that I was no longer married to and that I was not going to have a future with. So that was number 1. I don't think it's good to start dating prematurely until you have actually addressed your emotions as far as the other person is concerned. Then there was number 2, was after and there was something that came up that I realized I was no longer emotionally attached to him. I was like, wow. I couldn't believe it was done. And then I realized the second thing was I realized I didn't know what I deserved as a woman and as a wife. And I needed to figure that out. So I didn't want to date until I figured that out. And what do I mean by that? Because I allowed certain things to happen to me as a woman and as a wife, that meant I really didn't have any self-value or self-worth. And so I had to figure that piece out. So that was the second part of my process. After the second part of my process, the last thing, or the third thing, I should say, I wanted to make sure of what my standard was. And what my standard was, not everybody is the same. Some people like dating just for the sake of dating. But for me, I did not want to date without purpose. And so if I didn't feel like a person had the potential to be a spouse to me, it's not that somebody who talks to me is going to automatically become my spouse, but they at least needed to have the potential to be so. So I wasn't dating for entertainment. In the cases of, and I've had counterfeits, y'all. But nevertheless, they had potential. They had potential. I didn't want to waste my time, and I definitely didn't want to waste anybody else's time. And so allowing God to just take me through that process has really put me at peace as a person who is single, as a person who, I believe that God plans for me to marry again, and I'm wide open to it. My heart is open to it. But I allowed God to process me in that way so that I knew exactly what I wanted whenever I stepped back into the dating scene, courting scene, or whatever that's going to look like for me. And so I really recommend that for everybody, because emotions are a very tricky thing. And if you don't have those things worked out, big trouble for you. And you create a lot of trouble for others, for the other person as well. So I hope that helps somebody. Give yourself time. There is no rush to be in a relationship. Find you first. If you're a woman, before your husband finds you, or if you're a man, before you go find your wife, find yourself first. That's what I did. And I feel like the husband who finds me is truly going to get the best of me. I hope that helps. God bless you.